Good evening. I'd like to reconvene and call our meeting to order, our school district board meeting for Monday, August 12th. If I could ask everybody to please rise and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to ask everybody if you could join me in a moment of silence. On August 9th, the Valley View School District lost a member of its board, Mr. Kenneth Kibler. He was a member of the board for 14 years and was an instrumental role player in getting the 365 unit school district started. So if we could have a moment of silence for Kenneth Kibler. Thank you. Member Sikora, if you could please read the affirmation of the board, mission statement.
Our mission is to ensure that all students are prepared for college and a successful life, academically, socially, and emotionally, as well as equipped with the necessary tools to have options and make decisions about their long-term goals. This will be accomplished by believing and working towards all students learning through rigorous curricula and meaningful, effective instruction, consequently demonstrating mastery on high-quality assessments with all stakeholders being held accountable throughout the process.
Thank you. Superintendent Mitchell.
Mr. President Pro Tem, I would like to ask that the board approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion? Got a motion from Secretary Hansen. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Treasurer's report.
Thank you. The Treasurer's Monthly Report for July 2013 includes your usual financial reports, balance sheet, funds, summary of revenue and expenditures and encumbrances, as well as the interim obligation payments for July 2013 totaling $3,784,000, $229.04 for your consideration and action this evening.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Votes.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Sikora,
Yes.
Secretary Hansen,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Felice.
Yes.
The schedule of bills for August 2013 includes the Educational Fund, Operations and Maintenance Fund, Transportation Fund, Tort Fund, and Food Service Fund. Total bills payable total $2,323,394.86 for your approval and action.
Any questions?
Gotta have a motion before the questions.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Sikora,
Yes.
Secretary Hansen,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Felice.
Yes.
Treasurer's reports 5.3 through 5.6, the summary of investments, property taxes received, state funding update, and all schools trust account activity are there for your information. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at this time.
Any questions? All right. All right, moving on. Superintendent Mitchell, consent agenda items.
Mr. President Pro Tem, I'd like to ask the board to approve consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.4. 6.1 board meeting minutes, July 15th, 2013. 6.2 executive session meeting minutes, July 15, 2013. 6.3 DUCAP contract agreement, and 6.4 gifts for Jonas Salk Elementary School, Bolingbrook, and Romeoville High Schools.
So moved.
I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I did have one question, and maybe Rachel can answer this. Are they taking, the students taking the activity bus home after these activities?
Are you referring to the
Do you-
DPAP?
yeah, right. Correct.
for the buildings that have activity buses, this, however, refers to our elementary schools, and they're not activity buses that run from our elementary schools.
Okay, because I know there's one, it's not in this one that has the 5 junior highs?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so at certain times during the year, we do run activity buses for the middle schools, and so if they are running, then students can take the activity buses at that time.
And are the people that are running the program aware of how they get those students on the buses, or will somebody?
I can make sure that they are. I'm not certain that they are. Typically, the principal or assistant principal is
So
the
we'll
one in
talk to them.
communication with them, but I can make sure that they follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Sikora,
Yes.
Secretary Hansen,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Felice.
Yes. All right, moving past student staff recognition, any liaison reports? Board members report any activities?
We met with the office personnel, and the negotiations have gone very well, and they go to a vote tomorrow. So we will find out how that works, but there's pretty good hope that that will pass. We had a new teachers' 2-day workshop that took place last week, and I attended that, and that was very exciting to meet a lot of our new teachers. You can't hear me because I don't think my microphone is on. So we were at the new teachers seminar, new teachers workshop, and nope. Nothing. That was held at Lukanzik. There we go. Found one. Meeting all the new teachers in our district was really exciting. A lot of new young faces, and a lot of, I think, really good teachers that are coming to join our team. And so it was a really good day. The other mention, I just wanted to mention Dr. Woods. He did his community walks again this year, and I thought that was just an awesome thing that he did. So kudos to you, Dr. Woods.
Any other reports? Any audience participation? Please, as you come up, state your name and where you're from.
Jerry Capps from Romeoville, and I just want to thank Liz for her excellent suggestion to the board. I just wanted to just elaborate a few moments on Kenneth Kibler, who passed away. He was a board member for 14 years. Started out on the School District 86 when it was originally the grade school, and then he was part of the Lockport West after we combined with Lockport, one high school at Lockport West. He was on the Lockport West High School Board, and after that on the 365 Youth High School Board. He was one of the primary people who was responsible for Romeoville and Bolingbrook separating from Lockport. He was also here around and one of the people who were instrumental in helping to establish the 45-15 program, which I thought was extremely successful. So I just wanted to comment and bring that up, and I thank the board for recognizing that also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or participation from the audience? Hearing none, seeing none. Moving on to item 10, action reports. Superintendent?
Yes, Mr. President Pro Tem, I ask that the board approve action item 10.1, student due process case A, as presented.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Sikora,
Yes.
Secretary Hansen,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Felice.
Yes.
Action report 10.2, second reading and approval of amended board policy 6:150, home hospital instruction. I ask that the board approve this item as presented as well.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Sikora,
Yes.
Secretary Hansen,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Felice.
Yes. Ms. Kinder.
No report this evening.
Mr. Grisafi.
We're rebooting up the computer that seemed to time out, so I'm going to skip to 12.2 if that's okay with you, and we'll come back to 12.1, which is the tentative budget. 12.2 is a Pepsi contract extension. We're coming off a 3-year extension with Pepsi bottlers for our nutrition services department. They are requesting an extension for the 2013-2014 school year with a 3% price increase. We haven't had an increase. We had a 4% increase, last year at 12-13, so it is 1% less. The difference this year is that all of the deliveries are made through our existing primary distributor, Fox River Foods, rather than directly from Pepsi. This streamlines the delivery process in terms of having just one vendor making all deliveries at one time, saving on labor, as well as more efficient and consolidated online ordering. And it should be noted that we do not order or offer carbonated beverages, but since Pepsi is stocking these, you'll see them included on the price list. So I just want to make sure that is clear to you. So at this time, we are recommending approval of the contract extension with Pepsi Bottling Group for the 13-14 school year.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Sikora?
Yes.
Secretary Hansen?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Felice?
Yes.
Okay, this evening we're going to present the 2013-2014 budget. Some of the highlights are included in your packet. Our overall budget is $243,335,000, which excludes the $35.7 million on behalf payment. This is the payment that we are required to book in our financial statements. That is the payment made on behalf of teachers that the state of Illinois makes. We don't receive the revenue. We don't actually cut any checks or make any transfers. It is strictly a book-only entry form. But I think it's important to note that last year the amount was $27 million. This year it's $35 million. And so if I don't exclude that in the $243 million, it looks like our budget goes up tremendously in a single line item that we really have no control over, no revenue or expenditure. So the overall budget, as I indicated, $243 million is the actual operating budget for all funds, including our debt service fund. Our operating funds are budgeted at $218,737,000. This represents a 1.03 increase from last year's actuals, or $2.23 million. This is probably the smallest increase we've had year over year in some time, due primarily to the fact that we are looking to reduce wherever we can, along with the labor agreements that we've put in place with our various labor groups. And so I'm happy to report again that we're limiting our increase budget by just over a smidge over 1%. Our resources in terms of revenue are $177 million locally funded, $43 million from the state, and $14 million from the federal government. And so at the bottom of this chart here, I've outlined what those percentages look like here. And so I think we're 76% of our revenue comes from local sources, meaning our property taxpayers, our fee structure, corporate personal property replacement tax, anything having to do with taxes that are raised locally or fees that are paid. That leaves a very small percentage, looks like 18% there, that the state kicks in, and that percentage seems to be going down year over year. And the Fed gives us an additional 6%. For a total of $235 million in revenue, all funds. That does include our debt service fund. So again, that's where we get our revenue from, and I'll refer back to this slide frequently. General state aid is by far our largest increase in our largest resource in terms of state funding. You can see we had a very large increase this year in general state aid. The formula, the entitlement formula, should have generated just close to $10 million in additional funding year over year, or a 53% increase in that single line item. Unfortunately, with the state being in such a difficult way, we are going to be prorated, as we were last year, to 88.8%. of the entitlement, netting us an additional $6.7 million difference, or just over a third, 36% increase year over year. And so that's quite a bit of difference. Had the state been made whole or been in a better situation, would be able to make us whole, this would have been the increase in general state aid. So that's a $3 million hit, and I'll come back to that here as we proceed through the presentation. Transportation continues to be reduced by 44%, as it has over the last 4 years. That's about a $1.2 million reduction in our reimbursement. When I mention the word reimbursement, those are for costs that are paid out in the year prior. We're, again, reimbursed the following year. And so for the last 4 years, the state has basically prorated our reimbursement for costs that we actually pay our drivers, monitors, diesel fuel, bus lease, everything required to operate our transportation program for our 11,000 students. Cumulative effect over the 4 years, just under $5 million. And so again, you look at general state aid in the previous slide, and this slide here, we continue to really feel the effects of the state prorating categorical payments to our district. This will give you a general snapshot of our overall budget. I mentioned overall we're $243 million, including our debt service payment. That's the payment required to service our bonds. We're a 1.8% increase in our budget. Earlier I mentioned 1.03. That did not include debt service. Those costs are fixed. They were set when we issued the bonds over the last 20 years. And so they're typically not included in our operational costs meaning day-to-day costs. But if you factor them in, it is a 1.8% increase year over year, or $243 million. Our educational fund, which is our largest fund, is going to recognize a 3.5% increase. We were $173 million of actual expenditures in 2013. We're projecting $179 million. But as my memorandum had indicated, this would anticipate every dollar in every line item being spent down to zero, which never happens. We don't spend everything that's budgeted. We typically end the year better than we anticipate. Anytime I present a budget, it is worst case scenario, meaning every dollar that's budgeted, again, would be spent. This slide is very important in that it gives you an idea, projection-wise, of what we think the year is going to end at. And so I've tried to highlight, we're beginning the year with a $66 million fund balance on July 1st. Comprised of the various operating funds across the top here: your education fund, operation and maintenance, transportation, IMRF and FICA, where your retirement costs are accounted for, as well as your Medicare, your tort fund, which includes your workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, and general liability insurance payments, and then your working cash, which is really our main savings account to allow us more sufficient cash flow, particularly in these times of difficult finances. And so again, we start the year with $66 million. We are projecting $211 million in revenue across all funds. We are anticipating a $220 million expense across all funds, again, not including debt service. And that'll leave us at the end of the year with about a $57 million fund balance. We'll be using reserves to cover the $9 million shortfall, or just over 3 months of operating reserves at the end of the year. And so this is really critical to maintain an eye on this. As we get into the fiscal year, we'll monitor this even more closely to make sure that on May 30th, before the taxes are distributed in June, when most people pay their taxes, we have sufficient cash on hand to pay our vendors and pay our staff. If we find ourselves in a position where we don't have enough cash, we would have to issue what's known as tax anticipation warrants, and they're exactly what you might imagine. They're basically a short-term loan in anticipation of receiving your taxes in June. And so that is what we continually monitor to make sure, again, we have enough cash on hand to meet our obligations. So this is what we anticipate ending the year at in June of 2014. Last year, we anticipated, I think it was $64 million. We were about $3 million better, primarily due to the fact that we received our 5th MCAT payment, the one that was been an IOU from the state of about $4 million. It didn't have such a profound impact on us as we would have liked, just because of some of the other financial things that I'll allude to here in just one second. This slide you don't have in your packet. You have something similar, but I've kind of expanded on it a little bit. And what we have here is lost revenue at the state and local level. And so the first one here looks like general state aid. And so last year, our entitlement versus what we actually received via proration was $2.2 million less than we should have received. And as I indicated, this year we were at $9.9 million. We're going to receive $6.7 or a $3.2 million proration. And so just those two figures alone are almost $5.5–6 million due to the fact that the state just doesn't have enough money to fund the general state aid formula entitlement to the full extent. And this is the first time this has happened. Actually, it's in 2011-12, it was a 95% proration, and this represents an 88% proration these 2 years. So again, through no fault of our own, we're receiving that much less in funding on the state level. This is the transportation slide that I talked about. Again, $1.2 million less in 12-13 last year, and $1.2 million less in 13-14. Again, state not having enough money, prorating transportation reimbursement by 42%. This next one, Adventist Hospital, you may be familiar with that case there. We did not receive the tax payment for 2011 payable in 2012, or actually 2012 payment payable in 2013, to just under $2 million due to the court case where they were basically made tax exempt. And so we had no idea that we would not receive this funding and was short in our tax collections. And when I talked earlier about the $4 million IOU from the state not having such a profound impact positively, it had to do with being mitigated by this $2 million less in collections we had on our overall property tax cycle. You may recall, too, that the board approved a 4-year repayment for the 2008 through 2011 tax years to the hospital, and that annual payment to be made in December via a reduction in our distributions amounts to $1.2 million in 2013-2014. And last, we were subject to settlement of tax objections for 4 tax years, 05, 6, 7, and 8. And so we noticed our distributions were short in this past June to the tune of about $2.6 million. Again, through no fault of our own, the state's attorney had settled those objections at 50 cents on the dollar, which really was much higher than is typical. We generally realize a 5 to 10 cent settlement for tax objections. And so we're pursuing an explanation as to why that was settled at such a high rate. So if you total all those up over these last 2 years, you can see the profound impact it's had just on our revenue side of our equation. And wouldn't it be nice to have those dollars in our coffers to help offset our deficit? We continue to struggle on the revenue side of the equation. I welcome anybody who wants to sit down and go through the 300 pages of our working budget line by line to find where we have excess fat. We don't. I think we run a very efficient operation. Our concern, our problem really is on the revenue side. And so we continue to use our reserves to balance our budget. We're getting to the point where it's going to become almost impossible to maintain that pace. And unfortunately, the only way to do that would be to reduce the expenditure side of the equation, and that means a reduction in services for our students. This last slide is in your packet. It just gives you an idea of our overall fund balance summary and what it's been over the years by fund along the left there over the years. And so you can see here we had $84 million in the bank, so to speak, in 2004, when our budget was probably much smaller than it is today. And as you can see here, in 2013, we're projecting about a $66 million fund balance unaudited in 2013, the end of the last fiscal year, complete fiscal year. Again, we're not in as good a shape as we have been over these last 10 years. I think part of it, too, we used a good portion of our fund balance to put the additions on our schools for full-day kindergarten. And certainly nobody is saying that that wasn't money well spent, but again, it put a dent in our cash flow, if you will, our financial resources to maintain adequate operations. And so we'll continue to monitor this much closer than we have been in terms of making sure we have those adequate reserves, as I mentioned, come May, in the May timeframe. At this point, I'm open to any questions you may have, and after any questions, I will be recommending that the tentative budget for 2013-14 be put on display for 30 days. We will convene a public hearing on September 23rd, at which time the board will be asked to approve the budget for the fiscal year 2014.
Can I get a motion?
So move.
A second. Any discussion?
Your one sheet here, I don't know what number it is, but we're basically running at a 3-month fund balance by the time we wash all the numbers out at the end of the year.
Right. The 95-day balance is a June 30 balance, and if we back out the early taxes, which we receive in June, I want to know what we look like in May, and that's the more important number. We're not nearly as flush if we back it out just a month. Unfortunately, the fiscal year ends on June 30. We're probably running about a 15 to 20 day balance there, and it's hard to really look at your expenses and divide them by 12 and say, here's what I need, because the June month is really heavy due to the way we pay our teachers, due to the way we pay our bills, due to the way we do our projects. It's fair to say that June's expenses are almost twice what they are for the other prior 11 months. And the other extenuating circumstances that we receive taxes as early as May 30th, May 29th. For folks that pay their taxes early, the county has to distribute them earlier or pay us interest. And so that helps us with our cash flow. So it would be remiss for me to just sit here and say we're going to be out of money on May 30th, knowing those factors. So I don't want to mislead you the fact that we do have 3 months of operating reserves at the end of the fiscal year, but really it's the May 30th that's a little precarious and deserves watching. But that's a good question.
Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Sikora?
Yes.
Secretary Felice?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Secretary Hansen?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Felice?
Yes.
Final action this evening is a computer device refresh for FY14. This is phase 2 that was proposed to the board back in May, where we indicated that we would be coming to you with excuse me, 3 phases of a computer device refresh. All of the rationale is there. I certainly won't read it to you at this time, but we are recommending a lease purchase of 1,060 laptops at a cost of $481,000 from Dell. That lease cost is factored into our budget that was presented this evening, and it is part of our overall plan to replace what are approaching 5 to 7-year-old machines.
Got a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Remind me again, what are we doing with are we doing anything with the laptops that are currently being used and are going to be replaced, or any of the computers?
There are a few that are being redeployed. If they're 4 to 5 years old, they're replacing some 7-year-old desktops. Some of them have reached their useful life and are either more expensive to repair or maintain due to the fact they will not support the latest operating systems. And so we try to stretch the lifespan of these computers to the best we can, but at some point they've outlived their useful life.
Do they die and go to computer heaven, or are they given to other school districts that could use them and don't have any?
We typically do recycle them. There is some recycle value there, and I'm not sure where we are in the cycle. Some of those we actually paid an upfront fee to have them recycled. But we do, whenever we recycle anything, we do receive certification that all of the data is wiped clean and that they are recycled in an environmentally friendly way.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Sikora?
Yes.
Secretary Hansen?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Felice?
Yes. Ms. Hawks?
Thank you. Action Report 13.1. This evening, we're seeking your approval on the Consolidated Action Report for Certified and Classified Personnel. This report includes 77 requests on certified personnel, approval for 73 items on classified, 4 items for administrative classified personnel, and 8 items on administrative certified personnel.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Sikora?
Yes.
Secretary Hansen?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Felice?
Yes.
Before I move to my second action report, I would just like to make notice that in the Consolidated Action Report that was just approved by the board, we did hire 3 new assistant principals at the middle school level. So when I call your name, if you'd like to just stand, we recognize you. We won't make you come up to the podium and say anything. Lisa Allen, she's the assistant principal for Humphrey Middle School. Loretta Fortute, assistant principal for Brooks Middle School. And then Lisa Harrington coming to us from Iowa, assistant principal for A. Vito Martinez Middle School. Thank you very much and welcome to Valley View. We're excited to have you in the new positions. My next action report is 13.2 this evening. And we are seeking your approval for the resolution number 1465, authorizing dismissal of educational support personnel employee for reasons other than reduction in force.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Sikora?
Yes.
Secretary Hansen?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Felice?
Yes. Superintendent Mitchell?
I have no report.
Mr. Alvin?
No report this evening, thank you.
Association and Federation reports. AFT?
No report.
Valley View Council?
No report.
Valley View Officer Personnel Council?
No report.
Any old business? How about new business? Any questions from the public on the actions we've taken tonight? Hearing none, seeing none. Announcements by the board. I had just a couple. Want to remind everybody on August 24th, the Park District is having its summer's last blast from noon to dusk with, I believe, fireworks to follow. And for those of you that have known me at all, I'll be in the dunk tank from 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. So come and believe me, you will be ridiculed because if I'm going to get wet, somebody's going to get ridiculed. I'd also like to send out a shout to Jane Addams. I was at their welcome picnic today, and they had another one last Thursday, and I remember Sikora, you were
Correct,
there?
I was there.
Terrific turnout. I had a chance to talk with some of the incoming students and some of the parents, and it was very well received, so great job with that. I'd just like to send out, since school is starting on Friday, wish everybody the best of luck, the faculty and staff and our new members, and to all the students and the student athletes represent Valley View very well. So good luck to you starting Friday. Any other comments? How about by the administration?
Yes, I do have one announcement. Valley View School District lost a great employee, Alec Anderson, who was the athletic director at Bolingbrook High School up until last year, where he went to Homewood Flossmoor High School. He was a 54-year-old man with perfect health, did not drink, did not smoke, ate turkey sandwiches and salad, worked out every day, and had a massive heart attack on the treadmill last week. Alec was a very dear friend of mine, very close friend of mine. His daughter and my daughter were very good friends. So it was a pretty traumatic event for our family and for the district. His visitation will be on Tuesday, August 13th, tomorrow, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Lax Mortuary in Kankakee. Just note, Alec was only a 54 years young. In addition, there will be a celebration of life for Alec on Wednesday, August 14th at 8 p.m. at Kankakee Junior High School. And Kankakee attendees, if you plan plan to attend are asked to please dress in their respective school colors, jerseys, and athletic apparel. Thank you.
Any announcements by the public? Hearing none, seeing none. Motion to adjourn would be in order.
So move.
We stand adjourned. All in favor, say aye. Now we're adjourned.